This is Land of Havilah, Proverbs 31. The chapter begins with a 9-verse section labeled The Words of King Lemuel, the revelation which his mother taught him. There's no other King Lemuel in the Bible, or any Lemuel, except in the passage we're about to read. The best guess is that Lemuel is a pen name for Solomon. And as for King Lemuel's mother who taught him this revelation, maybe in fact it was Solomon's mother, Bathsheba. Lemuel means consecrated to God. Verse 1. The words of King Lemuel, the revelation which his mother taught him. O my son, O son of my womb, O son of my vows, don't give your strength to women, nor your ways to that which destroys kings. It's not for kings, Lemuel, it's not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes to say, Where is strong drink? Lest they drink and forget the law, and pervert the justice due to anyone who's afflicted. Give strong drink to him who's ready to perish, and wine to the bitter in soul. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Open your mouth for the mute, in the cause of all who are left desolate. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and serve justice to the poor and needy. Comment: King Lemuel's mother said in verse 2 that Lemuel was the son of her vows. Obviously, since she named him Lemuel, which means consecrated to God, she vowed him to God in infancy. Lemuel could be a good name for a boy today. But anyway, her first advice to him in verse 3 is, quote, don't give your strength to women, end quote. That might be to the effect, keep your desire for women under wise control. Then in verse 3, don't give yourself over to anything else that destroys kings, namely in verses 4 to 7, alcohol. She says a drunk or alcoholic king might forget the law, fail to deliver justice to the afflicted, fail to speak up for those who have no voice, and forget the cause of the desolate. The king needs to be sharp and not drunken to protect the afflicted and downtrodden. In verses 6 and 7, alcohol isn't for kings. It's a last resort for those who are ready to die, the bitter in soul, the poor, and the miserable. So the two things the mother implored of her son were, don't be ruled by women or by alcohol. Now, to close out the book of Proverbs, there's a 22-verse description of what the text calls a worthy woman, also known as the Proverbs 31 woman. She's an idealized woman who's the epitome of wisdom and productivity. Verse 10, Who can find a worthy woman? For her price is far above rubies. Comment: clearly in the passage ahead, a worthy woman like this is hard to find because she's almost superhuman. But if you find her, you hit the jackpot. Here's her description, verse 11. The heart of her husband trusts in her. He shall have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works eagerly with her hands. She's like the merchant ships. She brings her bread from afar. She rises also while it's yet night, gives food to her household and portions for her servant girls. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands she plants a vineyard. She arms her waist with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp doesn't go out by night. She lays her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her arms to the poor. Yes, she extends her hands to the needy. She's not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She makes for herself carpets of tapestry. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and delivers sashes to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing. She laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Faithful instruction is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and doesn't eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women do noble things, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears Yahweh shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands. Let her works praise her in the gates. Comments verses 11 to 31 describe an ultra-worthy woman. In her description, she's a complete asset to her husband and family with no downside. She works night and day, inside and outside the home. She's extraordinarily gifted as a wise shopper. She's up before dawn making breakfast for the family and the servants. She makes textile products from scratch, beginning with the spinning of the thread. and sells the products, including tapestry, carpets, clothing, and draperies, and uses some of the money to buy a field. Then she plants a vineyard in the field. She's building wealth and assets. She makes her own family's clothing and dresses herself in fine purple linen, and she's generous with the poor. She's well married, wise, dignified, strong, and confident in the future. She laughs at the future. She doesn't worry about catastrophe because if there is one, she's well prepared for it. Faithful instruction is on her tongue, meaning she's a godly teacher. She's never idle. Her children grow up to bless her, and her husband praises her as the best of the best. She fears Yahweh in the final line of the description. In verse 30, there's advice for young men and women alike that, quote, charm is deceitful and beauty vain, end quote. Young men looking for a wife need to look beyond the charm and beauty because those are vanity, which means they get him nothing. Where's the substance is the question. How can a young man find a worthy woman with some of the assets described, who's wise, confident, strong, energetic, industrious, dedicated to family, and God-fearing? That kind of woman won't marry just anybody in verse 23. A suitable man will be respected in the gates, meaning respected in the community, and he'll be a likely candidate to be an elder in the land as time goes by. So those are some things to keep in mind for young men and women and for older people who aspire to better things. That concludes the book. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed putting it together. Please check our other titles at Land of Havilah. Podcast is good for downloading to the phone. YouTube's good if you want to see the text. If you go to the website, you can find any chapter quickly. That's at landofhavilah.net. And please remember Granddaddy Longlegs' Story of Jesus for Children. For the children 5 years old and up, play it for them in the car or at bedtime. You'll find that listed with our other materials.